The global panic over the GPU shortage is a trillion-dollar lie. Everyone thinks we need millions of new chips to power the AI revolution. We don't. The truth is, the hardware shortage is actually a software problem. And just days ago, Google quietly released a line of code that fixes it. It's called TurboQuant. To the average person, it's just complex math. To Wall Street, it was a ticking time bomb. Within hours of the announcement, major memory stocks plummeted. Billions of dollars were wiped off the market in a single afternoon. Investors panicked, believing this new 4-bit cheat code would destroy hardware demand. Why buy a $30,000 NVIDIA H100 when software makes your old chips 6x more efficient? It seems like a total disaster for the semiconductor supercycle. But those panicked investors are completely wrong. Because of a strange economic rule called the Jevons paradox, Google didn't kill the hardware market. They just accidentally triggered the biggest hardware buying spree in human history. To understand why Wall Street is dead wrong, we have to look inside the machine. Section 1. The origin of the misconception. For the last 3 years, the tech world has been screaming about a chip shortage. Companies are fighting tooth and nail to buy NVIDIA graphics cards. They are building massive data centers that consume as much power as small cities. We are told this is because artificial intelligence needs raw, brute force computational power. We are told the AI just needs more brain cells to do the math. But that narrative is completely backwards. The bottleneck isn't the processor's ability to do math. It is the system's inability to move data fast enough. AI inference has transitioned from a math problem to a massive data routing problem. Think about how an AI like ChatGPT actually speaks to you. It doesn't spit out an entire essay all at once. It predicts and generates text one tiny fraction of a word at a time. To make sure it doesn't lose the plot of the conversation, it uses an internal cheat sheet. This cheat sheet is called the key value cache. Every time it reads or writes a word, it saves a complex mathematical representation of that word. It stores this data directly in the ultra-fast memory of the GPU. This way, it doesn't have to reread the entire document every single second. But there is a massive, fatal flaw with this system. As your conversation gets longer, that cheat sheet grows linearly. If you ask an AI to read a massive legal document, the cache explodes in size. Very quickly, that temporary memory takes up more space than the actual AI model itself. When the GPU runs out of physical memory, the whole system crashes into a brick wall. It either deletes data and starts hallucinating, or it slows down to a useless crawl. This physical boundary is known in the industry as the memory wall. Data center operators have been crying out in frustration over this exact issue. They are watching incredibly expensive next-generation processors sit totally idle. The processor is just waiting in traffic for simple text data to arrive from the memory chips. To fix this, the industry's solution has been incredibly blunt and expensive. Just buy more physical memory. This created a massive oligopoly for companies that make high-bandwidth memory. It created a $100 billion market practically overnight. But Google just proved that you don't need to buy more physical memory. You just need to change the shape of the data. Section 2. The Hot Take Expose. In March 2026, Google Research dropped a bombshell on the industry. They published a suite of algorithms known as TurboQuant. TurboQuant attacks the memory bottleneck without adding a single piece of new hardware. It solves the problem using pure, elegant mathematics. Normally, compressing AI data is a terrible idea. If you shrink a high-definition photo into a bad JPEG, it gets blocky and ugly. If you do that to an AI's memory, the AI literally becomes stupid. It loses its ability to reason and remember facts. Traditional compression algorithms also require heavy metadata to organize the shrunken files. This extra baggage defeats the whole purpose of saving space. TurboQuant bypasses this completely using a brilliant geometrical trick called PolarQuant. Instead of just crushing the data, PolarQuant rotates it into a polar coordinate system. It doesn't change the relationship between the data points. It just changes the perspective from which the AI views them. Once rotated, the data becomes incredibly uniform and predictable. This allows Google to strip away all that heavy, useless metadata. Next, they apply a second mathematical tool called Quantize-Johnson-Lindenstrauss. Yes, that is a terrifying name, but the concept is brilliantly simple. It acts as a high-speed, zero-overhead shorthand. It aggressively reduces the data vectors down to a single sign bit. The data just becomes a simple positive one or a negative one. The synthesis of these two techniques is absolutely staggering. Google proved you can compress the massive memory cache down to just 3 bits per value. They achieved a massive 6x reduction in the physical space the memory consumes. Even better, it speeds up the actual computation process by a massive factor of 8x. And the absolute best part, it is entirely training-free. You do not have to spend millions of dollars retraining your AI models to use it. You can apply it retroactively to any model currently running in the world. You just plug it in, and your operational memory costs instantly drop by over 50%. For the data center operators, this is an economic miracle. But for the companies selling the hardware, it looked like the apocalypse. Section 3. Expanding the panic. The moment Google released this research, Wall Street completely lost its mind. Traders took one look at a 6x reduction in memory needs and hit the panic button. They viewed this software breakthrough as a direct threat to hardware sales. Why would anyone buy new memory chips if software just made their old ones 6 times bigger? Major memory stocks plummeted in a highly targeted sell-off. Micron Technology fell sharply. Western Digital and SanDisk took massive hits in a single afternoon. The market assumed this was a strict zero-sum game. If software wins, hardware must lose. But veteran economic analysts knew something that the panicked day traders didn't. They understood a concept from the 19th century called the Jevons paradox. William Stanley Jevons was an economist who studied coal engines. He noticed that when engineers made coal engines far more efficient, coal consumption didn't drop. It actually skyrocketed. Because the engines were cheaper to run, people built way more of them. They found entirely new uses for coal power that weren't financially viable before. The exact same paradox applies to artificial intelligence today. TurboQuant is not going to destroy the memory chip market. It is going to pour pure gasoline on the fire. Right now, running massive, always-on AI agents is simply too expensive for most companies. The hardware rental costs are too high. But if data center operators can slash inference costs by 50%, everything changes. The economic viability of AI applications absolutely explodes. Companies can suddenly afford to deploy AI for deep, continuous tasks. Hyperscalers won't buy fewer memory chips. They will buy the exact same amount of hardware, but serve 10 times as many end users. Making AI cheaper and more efficient ultimately drives long-term semiconductor demand even higher. Google didn't kill the hardware market. They just unlocked the next massive phase of scale. But that doesn't mean the hardware giants are sitting back and relaxing. Section 4. Further evidence. The NVIDIA tax. NVIDIA is acutely aware of the existential threat posed by software efficiency. They have built a trillion-dollar empire by selling raw, unadulterated physical power. The industry frequently complains about the premium cost of this hardware. They literally call it the NVIDIA tax, but Google operates differently. Google vertically integrates its entire AI pipeline. They own the Gemini models, the software frameworks, and their own custom silicon. Because everything is connected, they can optimize memory flow with algorithms like TurboQuant. They don't have to rely on brute force hardware upgrades to solve problems. This software-first approach is incredibly dangerous to traditional merchant silicon sellers. If software can solve the memory wall, the massive premium on NVIDIA chips becomes harder to justify. NVIDIA's response to this algorithmic threat has been aggressive and expensive. In late 2025, NVIDIA spent a staggering $20 billion to acquire a company called Grok. They are pivoting their future architecture to utilize massive reserves of SRAM. This is a fundamentally different, faster type of on-chip memory. NVIDIA is trying to bypass the memory wall entirely through pure hardware innovation. They want to ensure their silicon remains absolutely indispensable. It is a high-stakes battle between the economics of software efficiency and hardware brute force, and the battle lines are being drawn right now by independent developers on the internet. Section 5. The one-bit brain. Behind the multi-billion-dollar supply chains, real humans are feeling the impact of this tech. When TurboQuant dropped, the open-source developer community moved at lightning speed. Within hours, independent coders were hacking the algorithms into consumer hardware. One developer on Reddit managed to run a local AI model on a standard Apple Mac. They hot-swapped the memory cache to a makeshift TurboQuant setup. They watched their memory footprint instantly drop by over 40% in real time. And the most shocking part? The AI didn't lose its mind. Human intuition tells us that if you delete 80% of a system's data, it gets stupid. But TurboQuant proves that intelligence isn't just about the precision of the numbers. It is about the geometry of the data. Google tested this compressed 3-bit cache on advanced reasoning benchmarks. The perplexity scores, which measure how confused an AI is, remained near perfect. The AI maintained flawless conversational coherence. It seamlessly continued explaining complex physics while using a fraction of the memory. This proves that modern AI models are currently operating with staggering levels of wasted space. And this 6x compression ratio is just the beginning. Emerging research suggests the theoretical limit of compression is far, far higher. Some experimental techniques show the capability to compress the cache by 200 times. This highlights massive, undiscovered inefficiencies in how we build AI today. Software optimization is truly only in its infancy, and that changes the entire trajectory of the future. Section 6. The semiconductor supercycle is not dead. The global panic over a chip shortage is missing the bigger picture. The AI revolution is not going to stall out because we can't build enough factories. It is going to accelerate because brilliant mathematics are bypassing our physical limits. Algorithms like TurboQuant prove that software efficiency can rewrite the economics of an entire industry. It terrified Wall Street, but it thrilled the engineers actually building the future. The semiconductor supercycle is not dead. It is just evolving past brute force and moving into an era of elegant efficiency. We don't just need more chips, we need smarter code.